Hello and welcome back to the Odds Now YouTube channel for your daily update of darts action. It's me, Matt Hill, on hand to preview all of Sunday's games from Ali Pali. And glad to say we had another profitable day yesterday, didn't we? Finished in style with the Luke Littler 40 and White 1 correct score, which landed at 3-1. That game panning out exactly how I thought it would, actually. Littler a little bit flat in places, but eventually powering clear. Nice when a plan comes together. We also backed over 4.5 sets in that game, or White to get a set, which was a satisfying winner. And then earlier in the day as well, had a couple of nice touches. A little bit unfortunate with Ryan Searle, who lost an absolute crackerjack of a game to Ryan Joyce. But fair play to Joyce. His finishing was just unbelievable in that contest. Wasn't it a real joy to watch? Okay, so we'll get on with today's action then. So we have the end of the third round, end of the last 32 today. And then we kick off with the last 16 ties as well, a couple of last 16 ties to preview this evening as well. We'll dive straight in with the first game of the afternoon. Well done if you managed to predict this game in your pre-tournament bracket. Paolo Nebrida versus Jeffrey De Graaf. I don't think anybody saw this coming. It was meant to be Gary Anderson versus Ross Smith, wasn't it? And probably a game that would have garnered a lot more interest and attention than this one. But both players deserving of their spot here, I think. Nebrida whitewashing Smith, De Graaf whitewashing Anderson for what would have been an all-timer of a correct score double. But I don't think I've seen anybody even claim to have backed that. De Graaf, quite a warm favourite for this one, 1-3. Nebrida all the way out at 5-2. I was a little bit surprised by that. The way I'm going to play this game, I'm going to back over 5.5 sets as my main bet. Now, Paolo Nebrida has obviously won 2 games here at Alexandra Palace this year, beat Jim Williams 3-2 in an epic encounter in round 1, then whitewashed a below par Ross Smith. But in that game, his finishing was exceptional. Now, I'm not going to say that he's going to hit those standards again. I think he was something like 9 from 11 against Ross Smith. He's just not going to be able to replicate that. But his first 9 average was also really, really solid. It was up over 100, whereas De Graaf's was down in the mid-90s against Anderson. So while both players kind of benefited from an off night from their seeded opponent, I feel like Nebrida's base level of scoring was much more solid. So I see him getting chances here against De Graaf. He was impressed in he's had 2 very different games, hasn't he, De Graaf? He had to battle past Rashad Sweeting when the crowd were against him. Then he had a bit of a free shot against Anderson, who didn't turn up. But De Graaf, you can't really knock what he's achieved so far. He's a very solid operator, lots of 180s and 140s, and a fantastic night on the doubles against Anderson himself. I think he was 9 from 12. But yeah, I just feel he's a little bit short of 1-3. Of course, when you're in a position like Jeffrey De Graaf in the rankings and you get these matches come round where there's so much money on the line in one game, there is bound to be nerves there. And again, he goes back to this position he found himself in against Rashad Sweeting, where the crowd are probably going to be against him. The crowd are probably going to be with Nebrida. Can't see it being an absolutely wild crowd, to be honest. First game of the afternoon, not a lot of star quality on shore, to be honest, for the neutral. So, yeah, I do think the crowd will favour Nebrida, but I don't think it's going to be a raucous atmosphere. I think there's enough there. We've seen enough from Nebrida. He's consistent. His throw is really solid, mechanical. I don't really see it breaking down under pressure. And he's shown himself to be competent in all areas of his game. So I expect him to make this a tight contest against De Graaf. As I say, the market has De Graaf 1-3, Nebrida 5-2. I see Nebrida pushing this very, very close. So I'm going to play over 5.5 sets for a 2-point win at 10-11. I'm also going to have a point on Nebrida to get the win over Jeffrey De Graaf. Even in his previous 2 Ali Pali visits, which both ended in first round exits, he was only beaten 3-2 by Danny Jansen and 3-2 by Simon Whitlock. So he doesn't go down without a fight. He has never lost a game without winning at least 2 sets. And I'm going to back that to continue here against Jeffrey De Graaf. Second game of the afternoon is Kevin Doets up against Krzysztof Ratajski. And again, I'm backing the upset here. I'm going to have a 2-point win on Doets to beat Ratajski. I was a little bit surprised when I saw this market, to be honest. I can normally, being a bit of a darts nerd, and someone who likes to punt on the darts, I can normally tell you roughly what prices players are going to be for most matchups. I would have had Doets closer to 6-5 here against Ratajski. So I was a little bit surprised to see him out at 30-10, to be honest. He was fantastic against Michael Smith in that last set. And it was also like, it was almost like 2 games within a game, wasn't it? Because for the first 4 sets, they were both averaging low 90s. It was scrappy, battling. Yeah, a war of attrition. Then in that last set, which ended up going 10 legs, Doets averaged 106. He hit 6 180s. There was some unbelievable clutch finishing in there from both players. So he showed a little bit of everything, didn't he? And he's also been in a position against Nolan van Leuven where the crowd was a little bit against him. He had a few hairy moments. He was locked in a bit of a battle at 1-1. Went 1-0 down, obviously losing the first set. So he's shown a lot, dude. He's shown a lot of different things over those two games that you can't help but like. And I noticed in his post-match press conference, he really put an emphasis on how much confidence he takes from that win over Michael Smith. I think he said more than you could ever imagine. It's going to help him mentally. So I think he comes in against Ratajski, who was quite impressive in beating Alexis Toilo. But I think Krzysztof is a very exposed runner, isn't he, these days? To coin a phrase from horse racing, we kind of know what he can and can't do. He's probably not quite at the peak of his powers. That was probably 3 or 4 years ago. I think he is a player, still a solid operator, but probably on a steady decline. I don't know how many years left we have of Krzysztof Ratajski. But that said, he was very good against Alexis Toilo. I just think Doets maybe has a little bit more X factor than him. I think he's riding the crest of a wave. There's an opportunity there, obviously, because Chris Dobie awaits in the last 16. Could have been worse, I suppose, draws from their perspective, because Dobie, he probably senses the opportunity as well. And where there's an opportunity, there are bound to be nerves. So everyone in this quarter will quietly fancy themselves. But yeah, I just think at the prices, Doets 13 to 10 is a very attractive price. I'm going to have a 2-point win bet on him to get the job done there. Final game of the afternoon is Dimitri van den Bergh versus Callan Rydz, and I think this could be a cracker of a game. Rydz has been arguably the tournament's most impressive player so far, averaging 107 when beating Romeo Gerbevach in the first round 3-0, and then whitewashing Martin Schindler, although it should be said that Schindler had a disastrous time on the doubles, but Rydz still swept in, took advantage. To be honest, the outer ring is something that's caused Callan Rydz a lot of problems over the years, so it's nice to see him taking advantage of somebody slack doubling rather than the other way around. But Rydz has talked at length about his mental battles in the last couple of years. He's had a rotten couple of years, hasn't he? It's only 3 years ago that he was making the quarterfinals here and missing darts to beat Peter Wright, who would go on to be eventual champion. We'll take him to a last set at least. So yeah, it's been a really barren couple of years for Callan Rydz. But I think if he gets the bit between his ears right, his natural talent is almost unparalleled. He's such a smooth, aesthetically pleasing action to watch. Very, very talented player and a massive 180 hitter. And he seems to be enjoying himself this year, doesn't he? He's already probably exceeded his own expectations in beating Schindler. So this is a little bit of a free hit for Rydz. I'm not surprised money has come for him. I think he's going to go off about the 11 to 10 mark. Dimitri van den Bergh, he'll go off favourite. Obviously, has the pedigree in the majors, a former major champion, of course, as well. So he's a rightful favourite, Van den Bergh, but he beat Slevin 3-0, Dylan Slevin 3-0 in his first game. On the face of it, 3-0 and the 96 average, 6-180 is plenty to like there. But if you actually watch that game, all 3 sets went to a fifth leg. And yes, Van den Bergh kind of got the job done, but Slevin didn't really pressure him too much in those deciding legs. So I've still got a few question marks over Dimitri and where he's currently at. His form hasn't been fantastic, but he is a very dangerous man in the majors, as we've seen time and again. The way I see this game going, I see it being a bit of a 180 fest. We've had some good fortune with the 180s bets recently. And yeah, this is another one that just has the makings to me of a 180 fest. Reason being, Dimitri, solid 180 hitter. Callan Rydz, very solid 180 hitter. But I think that these two kind of complement each other. And I also think that perhaps Rydz can just pull out a little bit more than we've seen from him even in the first 2 games here and keep raising his level, certainly in the scoring phase. And I think that I also have these two players down as ones that don't switch maybe as proficiently as others do. They quite like to persist on that treble 20 bed. They're both groupers. They're both first start merchants. So I think providing that they both get a maxi early and settle into this contest, and given I see this going at least sort of 5 or 6 sets, there's ample chance for this line to be covered. The line is at 13.5. 180s, 21 to 20 with Ladbrokes and Coral. I think that looks worth a 2-point win bet. And as I like to do with these games where I see a lot of maximums, I will also have a point on over 15.5. So go up by 2 on the alternate lines. 9 to 4 with Ladbrokes and Coral. That's how we'll be playing the last game of the afternoon. Final game of this round then is Ricky Evans taking on Robert Owen, and it's a big game for Robert Owen because, well, you do feel for him, don't you? He kind of announced afterwards that he thought he'd saved his tour card. Well, he said, I have saved my tour card after getting his victory last time out, but unfortunately, he hasn't quite done it yet. And if Jeffrey De Graaf beats Paolo Nebrida in the day's first game, Owen will need to beat Ricky Evans or he will lose his tour card. An extremely unfortunate series of events, given he only needed kind of Gary Anderson to beat Jeffrey De Graaf for him to secure his tour card. But, sod's law, you can't count on these things. And, could be a very big high-pressure game for Robert Owen, who has been really impressive so far, to be honest, and will not shy away from a clash with Ricky Evans, who was brilliant against Dave Chisnall, a thoroughly deserved winner, I thought, held himself together so well in that last set, some marvellous finishing on show from Rapid, and he's a player that I think has matured a lot in the last few years and added a layer of consistency to his game that he's never had before. But one thing he always has been is a proficient 180 hitter. We backed the 180 line in Evans versus Chisnall, and it fell just short. But I must say, I don't know if this is just because I was watching out for 180s in particular in this match. I have never seen Ricky Evans plant two treble 20s in with his first two darts and fail to follow it with the third so many times. I think his game is in a really good place, actually, particularly with that first dart. And I can't see that happening again, really. If he plays anywhere near the level he did against Chisnall, then I do think the 180s will be flowing in better fashion than they were last time out here. So over 5.5 180s is his alternate line at Bet365. That's 5-4. I'm going to chuck a couple of points on that. I was tempted to even chuck a point on over 7.5, but I do have my fears over whether this game will last too long. If I was picking a game that could be over in 4 or 5 sets today, it probably would be this one. Just a lot of question marks about both players in that they can throw in an absolute stinker. So if one of them does that today and the other one takes advantage, it could be a quick game. But regardless, I like what I've seen from Ricky Evans so far. I don't think it's absolute cut and dry to win this game, but I do think he can certainly deliver on the 180s line for us. The penultimate game of the night is the first game of the fourth round, and it's a clash of the Welsh between Gerwyn Price and Johnny Clayton. I'll just say it now. This is a no bet for me. These two obviously have played each other so many times, good friends, World Cup teammates. They've won the World Cup together. And I just think that is a difficult dynamic for two players who have struggled on the stage for quite a while now, but have previously won it all. And they sense an opportunity here in this third quarter. Whoever wins this will play one of will play one of Chris Dobey, Kevin Doets, or Krzysztof Ratajski for a place in the semi-final. It's a massive, massive opportunity for both players. But I just can't really call how this game's going to pan out. I've seen good and bad from Clayton and Price. You got to credit the way that Clayton's come through two deciding sets. Showed a lot of bottle. Equally, Price as well pushed all the way by Joe Cullen, wasn't he? He said that he made that hard work for himself, and there was a lot of missed doubles at crucial times. But ultimately, he got over the line, didn't he, when he needed to? So I find it difficult to watch. I'm going to give this a watching brief. And anyone that's kind of watched my anti-post stuff will know I also have a position on Johnny Clayton. I have him at 9-1 for this quarter, alongside Dobey at 11-2. They were the two bets in quarter three. We could have the dream scenario of a Dobey Clayton quarter final, but we could quite easily not. So I'm going to give this a watching brief. It's a no bet from me, but I am looking forward to watching that one. Do have a bet in the final game of the night, which is Luke Humphries taking on Peter Wright. I'm going to back this game to go over 4.5 sets, and I'm going to back Humphries to hit over 6.5 180s. That's even money, so that's a 2-point win selection to double your money there in the final game of the night. Now, Humphries has yet to drop a set in this tournament. He's whitewashed Tibor Chikole, and then he followed that up with another whitewash win over Nick Kenny, although he did survive a set dart from Kenny in the first stanza of that contest. Humphries has probably not been at his electric best, but as we know with Luke Humphries, he grows into tournaments and he continues to just quietly go about his business. And I suppose he has this reputation now, Humphries, where we say he's not at his dazzling best. Then you go and look at the match average, and actually he was just under 100. That's kind of the beauty of great players, isn't it? We saw it for years with Michael van Gerwen, where it didn't look visually like he was playing that well. Then you see the numbers at the end and you think, wow, okay, he's actually playing better than everybody else by a distance. So I do think Humphries has that aura to him. But Peter Wright was one of the standout stories of the last round, wasn't he? Really, really impressive in the way he beat Jermaine Wattimena, who didn't crumble or fall. They just thought Wright really, really raised his game. Now, Peter Wright was really ill, or certainly appeared to be really ill in that game. I'm not sure he'll have had long enough to fully recover from whatever it is, but it didn't affect the quality of his game. It may fatigue him, and it may be a factor against Humphries, who's one of the fittest players on the circuit, never really shows signs of tiredness or fatigue. He's had a good break compared to most players in this tournament. So I do ultimately think Humphries will have too much for Wright. But I think if Wright hits the standards he did the other night, he should easily get a set or two here. So over 4.5 sets looked like a no-brainer play. It is quite short. So what I've done is I've coupled it up via the Bet365 Bet Builder with Humphries hit over 6.5 180s, because I think if they kind of go hand in hand, if there is going to be at least 5 sets in this match, then that gives Humphries a bit of time to really get to work on that treble 20. And we've probably not seen the absolute best of him so far in the tournament on the scoring phase. I think his finishing has been pretty good, but I always feel like Humphries, as I say, tournaments as he goes on. He even referenced that himself in his post-match press conference after beating Nick Kenny, that he doesn't need to bring his A game in these rounds. He just gets the job done. At the end of the day, he's played 7 sets and he's won them all, hasn't he? So it's very, very hard to pick fault in Luke Humphries. I think that we'll see an improved performance once again from him here. He got 4 180s in 4 sets against Nick Kenny. I see this going 5 or 6 sets. I see Humphries improving a little bit. So over 6.5 180s, very, very viable. If this match does go a little bit longer than his previous 2, as I'm expecting. Okay, so that sums up where I'm at for Sunday at Ali Pali. Let me just summarise those best bets and the staking plan for you. We had 2 profitable days in a row, good profit as well. Hopefully we can make that a hat trick. 2 points on over 5.5 sets in Paolo Nebrida versus Jeffrey De Graaf, and I'm also going to throw a point on Nebrida to spring another upset of 5-2. Don't think there's that much between these two as the market suggests. A 2-point win, quite probably my nap of the day. Kevin Doets to beat Krzysztof Ratajski at 13-10. Just think that Doets is in a really, really good headspace. Played so well last time out. And I'm going to back him to go another step further in this tournament. Then I'm playing the 180s line in Dimitri Bergh versus Callan Rydz. 2 points on the middle of the line, which is over 13.5, and then an extra point on over 15.5. Do you think that these two could set each other alight on the treble 20? And neither of them are massive switchers either. So there should be lots of opportunities for that lipstick to be found. 2-point win on Ricky Evans over 5.5 180s versus Robert Owen. I think that he was very unlucky not to get quite a lot more maximums than what he did against Dave Chisnell last time out. I think this game is quite a hard one to predict, to be honest, but I am expecting an improved performance from Evans on the treble 20 hitting. And then 2 points finally on over 4.5 sets and Luke Humphries over 6.5 maximums against Peter Wright. Like I say, Peter Wright, clearly Humphries' toughest test today. I do expect him to get a set or 2, but Humphries ultimately to prevail. And I think that extended format gives Humphries a chance to hit over 6.5 180s. He's quite fired up for this game, isn't he? Said in his press conference, Peter Wright has had a lot to say and he's looking forward to playing him. So that should be a fun game to end the night with. Also looking forward to going Price versus Johnny Clayton, but no bet for me in that one. Let me know what you're backing in the comments. It's great to hear from you and love hearing your bets. Thanks for watching. I'll be back tomorrow to preview the remainder of the round 4 action before our New Year's Eve break. It's getting to the business end now, isn't it? Thanks very much for watching. See you again soon.